Welcome to this evening's meeting, Wednesday, July 18th of the Lafayette Parish School Board. We're going to open up with a pledge of allegiance followed by a moment of silence.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Fellow board members, I'd like to remove item 329 from the agenda tonight. It's a resolution for appointment of special counsel. Correct, it is removed from the agenda. Do I have any motions for any items to be added to the agenda? I actually have one. Pass the gavel to Mr. Hidalgo. I'd like to make a motion to add an informational item tonight on SRO Cooperative Endeavor Agreement updates.
Second. I have a motion by Mr. Knezik, a second by Mr. Santani to add an item to the agenda labeled. Will you read that for me?
It's an informational item on SRO Cooperative Endeavor Agreement updates.
Okay, it is an informational item. Do we have any comments from the audience about the addition of that particular item to our information portion of our agenda? Any board member comments, questions? Madam Secretary, call for the vote. Votes up. Votes up. Y'all vote. Thank you.
Eight for, none against.
Motion carries.
All right, next item on the agenda is 1.4. Dr. Aguilar, do you have any opening comments?
Yes, sir. Thank you. Good evening to everybody. The beginning of the school year is rapidly approaching, and students will be reporting to school 3 weeks from today. So give you a timeline on that. While most of our principals work throughout the summer months, high school and middle school principals have officially reported back to work, and our elementary principals will report back to school tomorrow morning. We have appointed 8 new principals this past few months, and you will get a chance to meet some of them tonight. Additionally, Human Resources has hired over 130 new employees and facilitated the transfer of some 200 current employees to various positions. Our yearly administrators conference will be held this Monday and Tuesday at Southside High School. Eric Schinninger will be our keynote speaker on Monday, and I would like to invite the board members to stop by anytime over the 2 days to observe preparations for the upcoming school year. Although most of our students have had some time off to enjoy their summer, the Como High speech team recently participated at the National Speech Debate Association tournament in Florida. This is one of the oldest and largest academic competitions in the world, hosting over 3,000 students from 1,000 schools from across 16 different countries. I'm extremely proud to announce that Como Speech had 3 national finalists this year, making it to finals and placing Rashawn Leday and Jacob Foster, sophomores, 4th place in duo interp, Emily Guidry, a junior, 3rd place in program oral interpretation, and Paige Albright, senior, 2nd place in prose reading. Congratulations to our Como speech and debate team, and their sponsor, Mr. Jacob Simon. And in closing, I'd just like to remind everyone that we will resume the release of our monthly Making the Grade newsletter in August. For our principals and staff who may be watching the meeting tonight, please submit your stories to Mr. Craig in the next 2 weeks so that we can recognize the achievements of our students, teachers, and, of course, our schools. And Mr. Knezik, that concludes my remarks.
Thank you, Dr. Aguilar. Next, we have our informational items. First item is 2.1 BO Elementary School Change Order for additional classrooms.
Good evening, members of the board. Kyle Boardlawn, Director of Planning and Facilities. We bring this information item to the board as BO Elementary is currently under construction. As you know, we had very favorable bid results when we took the bids for the project. During the design process, we consciously removed several classroom space items from the project in order to try to assure that we bring this project in within the budgeted funds. Because we had such favorable results on the bids, we are heavily contemplating adding some of those spaces back in, which would be helpful for potential future growth for the school itself. We're early in the process. We're early in construction. We've gotten some budgetary numbers of adding this space back in. We think it's going to be between $1.6 and $1.8 million. We wanted to let the board know that we would like to pursue this. If the board has any questions or comments of whether we shouldn't proceed, please, we'd like you to let us know now. Otherwise, we'd like to try to get the architects to complete the drawings that they can send to the contractor to give us a final price and bring a change order back to the board for approval.
Mr. Hidalgo.
Mr. President, if I could, I'd like to say that I know that the direction given to you all prior to the bidding process from not only the board but initially the facilities committee was to make sure that the project did not come back over budget. And so I know that you all did slash and cut a lot of what I would and hopefully all of us would consider to be important areas of that campus. So I am certainly in favor of you coming back with an updated proposal.
Any other questions? All right, thank you. Next item on the agenda is informational item, list of bids approved to be advertised by the superintendent. Anybody have any questions on this list? All right. Next item on the agenda is personnel changes for July 18th, 2018.
Good evening, board. We're very excited that we've been able to hire some really good talent, really good new administrators. I'd like to introduce 9 of them to you tonight. The first one is Larry Alexander. Mr. Alexander will be the new Director of Career and Technical Education, Magnet Academies. Mr. Alexander has earned a Bachelor of Science degree in accounting and a Master of Education degree at Northwestern State University. He has served as an assistant principal and principal at Oberlin High School. He then moved and worked at the Louisiana State Department of Education, and he served there for 5 years as a network deputy, executive director of Jumpstart, and executive director of Career and Technical Education. Congratulations and welcome to our team. Mr. Alexander, would you like to come up and say a few things?
Well, I'd like to take this opportunity to thank the board for the appointment. I'm excited about being here in Lafayette. I think we've got some great opportunities, and I'm looking forward to working with each of you hearing your opinions and taking those things and moving forward and doing some exciting things here in Lafayette. Thank you.
Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce the new principal at the W.D. and Mary Baker Smith Career Center, Ralph Thibodeau. Mr. Thibodeau earned a Bachelor of Science degree from UL, master's degree and an educational specialist from McNeese State University. Mr. Thibodeau served as a teacher at Henry High School, Erath High School, and North Vermilion High School. He has served as an assistant principal at Erath High School and a principal at Dozier Elementary School and Abbeville High School. He then transferred to the Louisiana State Department of Education, where he served as the High School Redesign Coordinator, Deputy Director of College and Career Readiness, Deputy Leader of Network 5, and most recently the Superintendent of Louisiana Special Schools. Congratulations, Mr. Thibodeau. You want to come up? We're happy to have you join our team.
Oh, I just want to thank you for the opportunity and for the appointment. I'm excited to be here. I feel 20 years younger. I feel so supported by the superintendent and the staff here in Lafayette. I've worked with Mr. Alexander before. I'm excited to be on his team, and I've worked with some of the academic team when I was with the State Department here in Lafayette, and I'm excited to be a part of their team. I've met some of the faculty and staff already at the Career Center, and I'm looking forward to doing creative things and innovative things at the center and make it a model for the state of Louisiana and just to move forward. I want to thank you also for appointing Ms. Matthews as my assistant principal. It's only been 3 days, and I can tell you she's a great assistant principal and will be an asset to the center and to the students and the teachers at that facility. So I look forward that when I leave this parish, I've only been in 2 other places, so this is number 3 in my career. I'm loyal, I'm faithful. When I leave here, hopefully I'll leave a legacy and turn this place into one of the best career centers in the state of Louisiana for you. Thank you.
Next, I'd like to introduce the principal at Milton Elementary Middle School, Candace Broussard. Ms. Broussard has earned a Bachelor of General Studies degree from UL Lafayette. She earned a Master's of Education degree from Lamar University. Ms. Broussard began her career at Kinder Elementary in Kinder, Louisiana. She came to Lafayette in 2015 and served as the intervention teacher at Como High School, where she was an LAEF teacher nominee. She then was promoted to assistant principal between Milton Elementary Middle School and Youngsville Middle School. Currently, she has been serving as the assistant principal at Milton. Ms. Broussard, congratulations.
Good evening. I'd like to start by thanking Dr. Aguilar, the board members, and the interview committee for giving me this opportunity to serve as Milton's principal. I'd also like to thank my faculty and staff and my family for supporting me through this process. It's been a long month with a lot of great things happening in Milton. Construction is almost coming to a close. We moved into the administrative wing this week, and we are going to move our teachers in coming this weekend. So we will be ready for meet and greet on July 31st and ready to see parents and students. I've also worked with my team reviewing recent LEAP scores, and we are seeing growth in all assessment areas. In closing, I'd like to say, I want you to know I am dedicated to the Milton school community and doing whatever it takes to continue moving forward. Thank you.
Next is Ginger Richard, who is the new principal at Green Tea Linden Elementary School. Ms. Richard has earned a Bachelor of Arts degree and a Master's of Education degree from UL Lafayette. Ms. Richard began her career as a teacher at Ridge Elementary, where she served for 7 years. During her term at Ridge, she was voted the Teacher of the Year for the year 2008 to 2009. She then was promoted to serve Lafayette Parish as a lead math teacher for 3 years. Next, she accepted a position at Milton Elementary Middle School as the instructional strategist and served for 3 years, and soon after was promoted to assistant principal position at Green Tea Linden and has served in that position for 2 years. Congratulations.
Good afternoon, Dr. Aguilar, President Knezik, members of the board. The last 2 years I have served Green Tea Linden as the assistant principal. During my time, I have built relationships with teachers, faculty members, students, and parents. Together, we have worked extremely hard to meet the needs of every student at Green Tea Linden, even extending learning beyond grade level in some instances. As the new principal, my plan is to continue having that laser-like focus on the individual needs of students at every performance level. I appreciate this opportunity and look forward to sustaining student and school level growth. I would like to thank a couple of mentors who have guided me along the way, Ms. Aloisio and Ms. Cherie Fontenot. I appreciate your continued guidance. I also would not be where I am today without the love and support of my family. Once again, I look forward to the school year, and I thank you so much for this opportunity.
Well, this morning, Dr. Aguilar appointed Beryl Wagner, principal of Acadian Middle School. Ms. Wagner has earned a Bachelor of Science degree from Southern University in New Orleans, a Master's of Arts degree from Xavier University of Louisiana, and an Educational Specialist degree from Piedmont College in Demorest, Georgia. She has taught 8 years in the New Orleans public school system and 1 year in the St. Mary public school system. She was an assistant principal for a year in New Orleans and moved to Georgia, where she served as an assistant principal for 11 years in Lilburn Middle School in the Gwinnett County Public School District. Currently, she has been serving as the assistant principal at Carencro Heights Elementary School. Ms. Wagner?
Thank you, Mrs. Thibodeau. Good evening, Dr. Aguilar, Mr. Craig, Mrs. Trosclair, Mrs. Aloisio, Mr. Hebert, district school leaders, especially board members. I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to serve the student, staff, and community of Acadian Middle School. I want to especially thank Mrs. Messa, the current principal of Carencro Heights Elementary School, and the awesome staff and students there for their continuous love and support. Thank you, Mrs. Samir, who is the principal of Acadian Middle School, Mrs. Tolliver, Mrs. Sorensen, and the Acadian staff that I've met thus far. You've embraced me, you've supported me, you've inspired me, and it's only been a few hours. Therefore, I look forward to the work that has to be done to ensure that our students are successful. I am committed to improving the school, and I promise to make each and every one of you proud of the success that our students will attain each and every day. Thank you again from the bottom of my heart.
Next, I'd like to introduce Bridget Malvo, the new assistant principal at Como High School. Ms. Malvo has earned a Bachelor of Science degree in secondary education and a Master's of Education in Educational Leadership from UL Lafayette. Ms. Malvo has served as a teacher at Northside High School, the American International School of Lagos in Nigeria, Lincoln Community School in Accra, Ghana, and Como High School. She is currently serving as the instructional leader at Como High School. Congratulations, Ms. Malvo.
Good evening. I'd like to thank Dr. Aguilar, the board, the selection committee, and our principal, Ms. Zeno, for this awesome opportunity to continue to serve our Como High School community. I'd like to thank my husband and my family for their continued support, and I look forward to having a successful year at Como High School. Thank you.
Next is Heather Olson, the new assistant principal at Broussard Middle School. Ms. Olson earned a Bachelor of Arts degree from Northwestern State University and a Master of Education degree from McNeese State University. Ms. Olson has taught at Iberia Middle School, Edgar Martin Middle School, and Broussard Middle School. She has been recognized as Teacher of the Year at Broussard Middle School, Lafayette Middle School Teacher of the Year, District Middle School Teacher of the Year, Lafayette Education Foundation Teacher Award nominee, Who's Who Among Teachers, and National Honor Roll Outstanding America Teachers for Exceptional Performance in Motivation and Empowering Today's Youth Award. Congratulations on your appointment, Ms. Olson.
Good evening. I would like to say thank you to Dr. Aguilar, the administration team, the board for this opportunity. I would also like to say thank you to my husband and my wonderful daughter and my family for continue supporting me as I embrace this new journey. I look forward to working with Mr. Mouton, our faculty and staff, and also the community of Broussard as we continue to strive to meet our vision. Thank you and have a great evening.
Next is Amanda McCaney, who will be the new assistant principal at Southside High School. Ms. McCaney earned a Bachelor of Science and Master of Education degree from Sam Houston State University. Ms. McCaney has taught special education to adults with special needs at the Cambridge School and students with autism at Timbers Elementary in the Humble Independent School District. She has taught special education resource and inclusion and coached cross-country and track and field at Conroe High School and Como High School. She has been a mentor teacher and served as head of the special education department. She has twice been a Teacher of the Year nominee. Ms. McCaney?
Hello. I just want to thank Dr. Aguilar for this opportunity and also my principal, Ms. Cassidy. I realize that this job comes with a great deal of challenges, but I know that with challenge comes change and growth. And so I look forward to the growth that I'll be able to gain personally and also see our students grow and our teachers grow. And I'm just beyond grateful and excited to get started. Go Sharks.
Next is Angela Boxey, who will be the assistant principal at Judy's Middle School. Ms. Boxey earned a Bachelor of Arts degree in elementary education and a master's degree in educational leadership from Southern University. She has also earned a +30 in an elementary math specialist certification from the UL Lafayette. Ms. Boxey has spent her career teaching at Edgar Martin Middle School. She has been a Lafayette Education Foundation Teacher Award nominee and a Presidential Award for Excellence in Mathematics and Science Teacher nominee. She has been recognized as a Louisiana Association of Teachers of Mathematics Outstanding Middle School Math Teacher finalist and has twice been named Edgar Martin's Teacher of the Year. Ms. Boxey was also recently nationally recognized by winning the Milken Educator Award. Congratulations, Ms. Boxey.
Good evening. I would like to thank Dr. Aguilar, the selection committee, and the board members for this awesome opportunity. I would like to thank my former administrators for believing in me and encouraging me and growing me as a leader. I would like to thank my family for always being there and supporting me. I look forward to working with Mrs. Fontenot. I'm eager and excited, and working with the rest of the Judy's School community to continue to move Judy's Middle School forward. Thank you.
All right, this time we're going to take just a short recess, 3 to 5 minutes, to congratulate our new administrators. All right. Congratulations to all the new administrators. Next item on the agenda is 2.4. It is SRO Cooperative Endeavor Agreement updates. And I'm going to go ahead and I've got a visual. This folder is filled with 5 Cooperative Endeavor Agreements from the Lafayette Parish Sheriff's Office, Youngsville, City of Youngsville, City of Broussard, City of Carencro, and City of Scott. So updates to the board. Those 5 municipalities and the sheriff, or those 5 entities, have all signed the Cooperative Endeavor Agreement for our SRO increase in staffing. All of the agreements, those 5 agreements, were not changed with any substance. There might have been a typo here or there. They have all been executed by myself, Dr. Aguilar, notarized by the attorney, witnessed, and the same on behalf of each entity. The one that we are still remaining is Lafayette Consolidated Government, and that's the update. Mr. Hidalgo.
You said the only one still outstanding is Lafayette Consolidated Government. Do we know why that contract has not been executed?
They have a meeting with the council on Tuesday, which I assume that they will authorize the agreement to be signed by then the mayor and then return back to us. Today we received some red line changes from their attorney, and I've not gone through but a few pages of them as of now.
So I would assume that they've had meetings prior to next Tuesday where these contracts could have been executed. What happens if they don't get executed next Tuesday? School starts on the 8th, correct? So what's the contingency?
Correct. We've requested that they get us a signed agreement by, their meeting is the I believe it's the 24th? 24th. We requested that they get us a signed agreement back to us between the 25th and the 26th so that it can be executed by the 27th. We let them know that if we don't execute by the 27th, then we have to implement other plans to staff those schools with SROs.
Okay.
Good. Any other questions on the SRO update? All right. Any public comment or questions on the SRO Cooperative Endeavor Agreements? This was an informational item. All right. Thank you. We are now going to read off the items on our consent agenda, and if any board member would like an item pulled for further discussion, please let me know. 3.1, approval of NP Moss becoming a K-5 community school in the 2019-2020 school year. 3.2, LPSS reorganization of staff.
Pull that, please.
3.3, budget revision safety initiative school resource officer program MFP revenues and other offsets.
Pull that, please.
3.4, approval of the 2018-2019 pupil progression plan. I'd like to pull that. 3.5, approval of quotes for Lafayette High welding shop ventilation system. 3.6, resolution 07181935, ratification of bond sale. 3.7, sales tax collection report for June 2018. 3.8, approve bid award bid number 32-19 CNC Mill. 3.9, approve bid award C4M Robotics bid number 0119. 3.10, approve bid awards robotics hand tools, nuts, bolts, and other materials bid number 1919. 3.11, revisions to policy file DJE purchasing and policy file DJAA authorized signatures. 3.12, grant fund summary June 2018. 3.13, ratification of approval of budget revisions to FY18 self-funded construction fund and FY18 capital improvement fund. 3.14, budget to actual reports June 2018. 3.15, Hoyt and Standard attorneys at law request for waiver of conflict. 316, approval of listing contract for sale of sales tax office building. 317, approval of utility servitude STEM. 318, lease of old
Mr. President, I apologize.
Yes.
Would you please pull 3.17?
Yes, sir. Lease of old venerable homestead, section 16. 319, resolution 0718-1936, daily tower service industrial tax exemption application.
Pull it out.
$320, approved bid award band uniforms, bid number 0719. $321, ratification of approval of budget revision FY19 capital improvement funds. $322, budget revisions to FY19 capital improvement fund and FY19 general fund. $323, revisions to resolution 11071584, authorizing the execution of a commercial credit card application.
Pull that, please.
324, policy GBRAD accident review. 325, authorized purchase of propane school buses and participation in Volkswagen Clean Fuel Program.
Pull that, please.
326, revisions to policy JCDB student dress code. 327, revision to policy JGC student health services. 328, revisions to policy JCAB and elimination of policy JCABA.
Mr. President, I also neglected to request that 3.6 be pulled.
3.6.
I'm a little rusty. I apologize.
Got it. Dr. Shasta on 3.4 was pulled. All right, I am on 3, mine are not numbered. The next one is that one was pulled before the meeting as off the agenda. 330, approval of minutes.
Mr. President, I move that we approve all items not pulled.
I second.
We have a motion by Mr. Satani, a second by Mr. Latchley to approve all items that were not pulled from the agenda tonight. And I'm going to summarize those that were pulled. 3.2, 3.3, 3.4, 3.6, 3.17, 3.19, 3.23, 3.25. Do we have any public comment on the items that are remaining on the consent agenda before we call for a vote or before we open it up for board member comment? No public comment. Any board member comment? Mr. Hidalgo.
Mr. President, I'd like to ask our board attorney if they have reviewed items 3.26, 0.27, and 0.28, and if those reviews are satisfactory. Those are the revisions, policy revisions. Thank you.
Mr. Broussard.
Mr. President, we didn't put 3.1, but I think it's important if the Mr. Craig or Mr. Sinclair would give us an overview on what we're doing at the NP Moss campus, just for informational purposes, to keep the public informed.
Yes, sir. Dr. Aguilar?
I'm sorry. You wanted an update on Moss? The staff
just to give the public an overview of what we're trying to do at Moss and what we're trying to achieve and the changes we're making.
So the staff's been working closely over the last month, and we have determined that The needs of districts 3 and 4 in particular are paramount as it relates to the transformation zone and raising student achievement on that in that part of the city. What we are recommending is that the Moss campus become a neighborhood K-5 school. We have an anticipated zone map that's been provided by Mr. Hefner. Moss would open in the 1920 school year. It would house approximately 450 students. Falk Elementary School would diminish a little bit as well. It would be around 400 students. And Alice Boucher would also reduce in size significantly by way of opening the Moss campus. In fact, the Boucher campus would go from over 700 students down to about 440 students. I want the board to know that we are anticipating at this point that Boucher would not need a wing to be built onto the campus. So we're working with the architect currently to see if we can provide some improvements to Boucher, but we will be coming back to you in August asking you to redirect most of those monies to an additional elementary school in the district to build a wing on that campus. The Moss school that will open in 1920 will have significantly smaller populations, as well as Falk and Boucher Elementary School. Ms. Trosclair and her team believe that what we need is continuity. We need a safe learning environment. We need the professionals to have the capacity to interact closely with students as needed, which is nearly impossible with large populations, particularly at Boucher Elementary School as well as Falk. So the recommendation is that we work to secure Moss opening in the 1920 school year as a neighborhood school serving kindergarten through 5th grade.
I totally agree with the move, and I would ask, since we are preparing this so far in advance, that we take our time and dot the I's and cross the T's. And I would encourage community involvement and community input in what we're trying to do and trying to achieve the goals that we are trying to reach. So I would ask that we, especially Mr. Shash, Dr. Shasho, and I, Census District 3 and 4, to keep us in the loop as far as what we're doing, and we may have some ideas to make some changes as well. But I appreciate what you're doing. I totally agree with it.
I'd just like to add and reiterate that a lot of this also came out of our evaluation of the number of temporary buildings that we have in the school system. And when we were looking at resources that we had to build or not build, we actually ran out of money. We don't have any more money to build more schools. So we looked at the facilities that we did have, or that we do have, and how to better utilize them to reduce some of the student population at some of the neighboring schools, return back to community school zones, and I think this is a great decision across the board. Ms. Morrison.
I just wanted to add that we had the opportunity to travel to Milwaukee and attend a conference on community schools, and we were all very impressed, Ms. Morris, Mr. Broussard, and myself. So I really think this is going to be very successful. It takes time in the planning. So again, I'm glad that we're starting early and then moving forward. So, thank you.
Any other board member comments on the consent agenda? Mr. Centani.
I'd like to make two comments one about the Moss school, and compliment the superintendent and his staff for an exceptional combination of educational and facilities planning, in that the purchase of a office building for $2 million, a little bit over $2 million, has yielded a alternative school at the old La Rosen campus, a brand new school at Moss that's going to continue serving the needs of the children in districts 3 and 4, and save us the nearly $8 million for a wing at Boucher. So we're going to be getting rid of portable buildings at Boucher. We're not going to have to build a wing. We're going to be able to get rid of more portable buildings at another elementary school and build a wing there, all because we were able to, or the superintendent's staff was able to plan ahead and come up with this scenario. So congratulations to everyone involved with coming up with this idea. I'm very proud to support this. Also, Mr. Bordelon has gotten rid of 14 leased buildings.
Great.
I know people around Lafayette have seen him traveling the roads, and we truly apologize for that. We do. And it was quite disappointing to some to see a portable building leaving a campus. I myself was walking past Myrtle Place Elementary one day and saw them moving a building out, and I was like, well, how on earth is that possible? And then the next day, a slightly less old building showed up in its place. However, we own that one. We're not renting it. We're not renting it. So congratulations, Mr. Bordelon. I know it was a Herculean task to get those buildings off of the campus in some places, and so you guys have done a great job. Great job in the 1 month of this fiscal year, so good job.
Great. Any other board member comments on the consent agenda items not pulled? Madam Secretary, call for the vote.
Eight for, none against.
All right, next item on the agenda, 3.2, LPSS reorganization of staff.
Mr. President. I move that, let me get back to the item, I'm sorry. I move that the board approve the attached proposed plan of reorganization of staff and changes in job descriptions related to go into effect August 13, 2018 with the following change: that the ESL program manager position remain at administrative pay grade 9.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Hidalgo, second by Mr. Santani, to very long motion to accept the LPSS reorganization of staff with the exception of keeping the ESL position at a pay grade 9 in summary.
Program manager.
ESL program manager at the pay grade 9. Do we have any public comment on the motion to accept the superintendent's reorganization plan with that exception of keeping the ESL program manager at pay grade 9? Any board member comment on this agenda item? Madam Secretary, call for the vote. Everybody vote.
Eight for, none against.
All right, motion passes. Next item on the agenda, 3.3, budget revision, safety initiative, school resource officer program, MFP revenues, and other offsets.
Mr. President, I pulled that item, and I'm simply going to move approval.
Second.
We have a motion to approve the budget offsets by Mr. Hidalgo and a second by Mr. Latchley. Any public comment on the item? Any board member comment on the item? Madam Secretary, call for the vote.
7 for, 1 against.
All right. Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is 3.4, approval of the 2018-2019 pupil progression plan. I did. Dr. Chasson, did you have a question on this one?
Somebody else had pulled it.
I had pulled it.
Okay.
So, Dr. Aguilar, my question on...
Mr. President, I move that we approve the proposed
thank you.
2018-2019 pupil progression plan.
A little rusty. So we have a motion by Mr. Santani, a second by Ms. Morrison to approve the 2018-2019 pupil progression plan. Do you have any public comment on the pupil progression plan approval? It's not a very lively audience tonight. All right. We do have comment. Great. Thank you. I welcome all public comment.
Okay. Never been here before. I am Connie Benoit. I am a 7th grade math teacher for LJ Alamo. I decided to come with the push of several of our teachers, but not only as a teacher but as a parent. So I've read all of the minutes and we kind of put something down, so I'm just going to read because I get very nervous in front of other adults. I can do it in front of students, but adults I get nervous. So I am here to comment about the change of not being able to grade homework. As both a teacher and parent, this definitely seems like the easier option, but easier is not always better. I understand that there may be a problem with students being overloaded with homework. In the past few years, I have lightened the homework load tremendously and chosen very carefully my assignments. It ended up being a small grade of 10 points a week, but just enough to motivate my students to complete it with good quality. Not assigning homework will also create a bigger gap with parental involvement. I know that if my coworker's son did not come home with homework for them to work on each night, that they'd have a difficult time understanding what is going on in the classroom. She got sick this particular year and I stepped in and helped him, and he would say he didn't have any homework. So I made him get his math book, being a math teacher, and I'd make him explain. Well, as he's explaining, he's telling me everything his teacher taught him, and he was actually doing his homework that he claimed he didn't have to do. So I know that most parents, they'll take their kids' word for it that they don't have homework. It's not until those low grades come home that the parents want to know why they don't know why the kids aren't understanding their work. Again, it's the reinforcement. I understand that with, everybody calls it the new math, that a lot of parents can't help their kids when they get home. But if we're doing basic computation skills to help them promote those skills, the parents can help. And we're not overloading them a lot. I know that we take the time to choose very wisely and not make the homework where it's 30 minutes or 40 minutes. If you ask my students, even my weakest students, they will tell you their homework normally takes 30 minutes at the most. We go over it every single day. And it's skill builders that we do with them. The advanced teacher, I got to get back to this. I understand that the changes are not saying that we're not allowed to assign homework, but when you're dealing with the older grade levels, that is what it translates to in the long run. Her elementary student will do homework faithfully every night because he wants to be part of the homework club. Middle school kids will rarely work just for a certificate. Even the candy gets old. We try to motivate our students with so many things, but for many students and parents, it's all about if it counts for a grade. This tiny change would make a huge impact on the classroom, especially in math. I did work with low-performing students in the past where a majority just would flat out not do any homework. As a teacher, I knew my plan wasn't working, so I changed it. They did not have homework because they couldn't go over it with the few. They did not have homework because I couldn't go over it with the few that did it while the others just sat there disengaged. A good teacher will always adapt and do what's best for his or her students. But I feel like this change is going to hurt the average and above average performing students. Again, I feel like I try to push and motivate and pull all kind of tricks out of my hat, but sometimes I feel like I'm fighting a losing battle. Last year, I may have had 2 or 3 in class not do their homework, but I am predicting with this policy change that the number of doing is going to increase drastically, which means I will end up giving up and not assigning homework. We say our expectations are getting higher and we're raising the bar, but think about it. Actions that we are taking show us lowering the bar. How many of y'all did sports, cheerleading, dance when you were younger? Most of you practice 2 to 3 to 4 hours a day to just get good at it. Kids don't even practice homework that much. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment on this item? Dr. Aguilar, I pulled this item because I received an inquiry basically on the same thing, and I tend to agree. Homework, we're charging educators with a tough job of educating, a myriad of kids with different abilities, different backgrounds, and I feel like anytime we are restrictive on the tools that they have to motivate children, we put them in a bind and we make it more difficult for them to do their job. I know that there was a committee that developed this. I know that it evolves every year, but that's one of my biggest concerns, is that we're taking away that tool from the teacher's ability to incentivize students to do their homework.
So, Mr. Knezik, it is a committee effort and it's exhaustive to try to pull this together. Do you mind just maybe hearing some comments from Kathy Aloisio in terms of the thinking behind this policy?
Sure.
And while Ms. Aloisio walks up, I'll point out that on page 70, it says homework shall not be graded, but comment codes can be used to report on homework habits so that parents will know if their child is actually doing homework should it be assigned.
Good evening.
Yes, ma'am.
Is it on? It's on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So this past year we've been working really hard with our grading practices, and we've attended conferences and tried to implement the things that we think are best for children. We've learned along the way that we've maybe have made some mistakes along the way as far as with our grading practices. A grade should represent what the children do in class and what they learn, the standards that they learn. When they do homework, homework is very important. Understand, we don't ever say that homework is not important, and I do understand that motivation is something you need to get the kids to want to do it, and I understand that tremendously. However, when we talk about homework, homework is practice. Practice is along the way. Practice is what they do to learn the standard, or to complete the standard, or to be successful, master the standard is the word I want to use. And so the homework that the children, we want them to continue to do homework, we just don't want to grade it. And so parents would know, some people had questions about whether or not parents would be notified. There are comment codes that the teachers can send home about homework. Do they do the homework or not? But best practice is homework, which is practice, is not to be graded. It should be used to help inform and guide instruction, to let the teacher know where they are with regards to the standard that they have and the standard they're trying to achieve. So a child who's working hard, you might have a child that goes home, does homework that night, and so we penalize him because he's practiced, but he didn't get it right. Okay? And so it might take him a little longer to learn it. So we don't ever want to penalize someone for their first effort or trying to master the content or the standard that they're trying to learn. Okay? So it's not that we don't want them to do the homework. Best practice is it should be used to inform instruction. It should be used to help the children to master the standards, but we don't grade the practice. And someone said earlier about, how they, football players practice, and they practice every day, and they play the game on Friday night, okay? But they don't get graded on the practice. They get graded on the game at the end, and that's where we want them to finally get to master the standard, okay? So it's the same thing. They don't get graded on their practice. They get graded on the end result, which is what we want them to do to match, to master the standards.
I have a follow-up question on that. So,
yes, sir.
Is there a medium where we're grading their level of effort, not the accuracy of the work?
I want to make sure I'm understanding your question. You're asking me, like, so say I'm not a math teacher, but say I was a math teacher and I gave them 10 problems, and some, I don't
say they came back with 6 right, 4 wrong.
Right, exactly.
But as a teacher, you can evaluate whether or not they put the effort in, versus a kid who walks in and just puts a number 3 on each one. That kid didn't actually participate in working on the problem.
And so your question is what?
My question is, we're taking away the teacher's discretion on whether or not she wants to give the kid who just wrote a number on each one a 0, and the kid who tried but only got 6 right out of 10, a 10 out of 10 for their score for the effort put into completing the homework.
Right. But
not grading on accuracy, grading on effort.
But anything that becomes a grade as summative should be summative and should be on what the child has mastered at that time. I don't think I know we're kind of going back and forth. I don't think the practice is, that's not the part that should be graded, and knowing that they got 6 right out of 10, you find out where the mistake is, but it still shouldn't be graded along the way. That's just best practice.
Have we tested this on any smaller scale before we implement it, the homework aspect? I know it was worth 10%. The maximum was 10% in the grading. In the pupil progression, it was 10%. Could be weighted no more than 10%. So 10% is as low as we've ever gone for it. But we have not you're asking me, have we ever done 0 before for homework? Right, to see if it
Not
changed participation.
I don't think so.
Okay. Well, I guess if it doesn't work, we can always change it back.
Yes, sir.
Ms. Morris?
Yes, ma'am.
I have 2 questions.
Okay.
One is, who makes up the committee? Who made these decisions?
Okay.
Not names, but just...
Yes, ma'am. Okay, so we send out an email to all principals, and each school is responsible to have a representative for the pupil progression committee. We split up. We've been meeting it's over a month and a half that we've been meeting weekly. And so each school sends someone to the meeting. We split up into 2 main groups. Basically, we had an elementary group and a middle and high group. And then we split them into subcommittees because some things pertain to high schools versus middle schools, whatever, like the alternative program was in middle school, so they talked about that. High school, jump start, things like that, they handled those issues. And then I had the elementary committee. So when we voted Friday, which we did, we finally came to consensus, and you can see the document. It's a pretty thorough document. We had 38 schools represented out of 44. It was the week after, I was pleased. It was the week after the 4th of July. Many people, they text, I'm sorry, I'm not going to vote to make it. A lot of them made. We had some committee members that made every meeting. We had some with substitute come in and out, but the schools were very well represented in there. So,
and the participants were educators?
Yes, and parents.
And parents. Okay.
We had parents, and we had different parents coming in different meetings, some elementary, some high school, and they gave their input every single time.
Okay, and was this particular issue something that had a great deal of discussion, some back and forth with the committee members, or was it pretty unanimous?
It was unanimous, and it was unanimous elementary through high school across the board.
Okay.
And our committee members in here, they're shaking their head, I see them. It was unanimous.
My next
and
question.
I'm sorry, and Ms. Aloisio, am I correct that 38 of 42 schools
Yes, ma'am.
were represented in
yes,
those
ma'am, in
committee
the vote on
meetings?
Friday. And that excluded, and just to let you know, the district folks that were there, like myself and a lot of the specialists who were there, none of us voted. These were only school votes. We did not participate at all, so it was all from the school level. And you said you had another question.
I do.
Yes, ma'am.
and this is going to be kind of an attorney question, I guess. I'm like, okay, so
I don't have a law degree, but I'll try my best.
Well, as I'm thinking about the kinds of things my daughter had to do as a student at Paul Bro, I'm wondering what is meant by homework, the word homework, for purposes of the pupil progression plan. Because, for example, she had to do so many 10 marks each week, and that was a pretty substantial part of her grade to complete those with a certain percentage. So does that constitute homework? Because it is with the standards. It was very helpful to her. There's obviously not going to be time to do that in class because the class time is so short. So does that count as homework? Same question with Google Classroom. A lot of the teachers at Paul Bro use Google Classroom where the students have to read a certain number of pages or they have to write an essay, and that is not feasibly done during the class time that the teachers have. So what is counting as homework? Because I really think that if doing things like 10 marks or writing essays, if you have to write your essay in class, I'm kind of worried about the substance or the quality of it because of the short time.
All I can say, I'm gonna think of something that I had happen in my own school. So, say they have a project. I'm thinking that that's what you're working on, something like a project that's worked in class and maybe completed at home. They might do a part at home, like there's a grade for the rough draft that happens in class. There are different parts as they grade along. That project is not, that would be considered a summative grade because it's an end product of what they've learned. It's accumulation of stuff. We're talking, when we talk about homework, we're talking about you have, let's be easy, and say in 3rd grade they learn their multiplication tables and they do their practice 2 times 2, 2 times 3, whatever, that kind of homework where they just do that practice math or something like that, or reading an assignment. The way they know they read the assignment is the next day when they start asking questions and about whether or not, if they understand what they read or they comprehended what they read. So that would be a way to tell that they did their homework or not. But
so I guess
shouldn't be a grade.
My concern then is that for purpose of the pupil progression plan, because I can envision that at some schools teachers are going to say, well, 10 marks is homework, so it doesn't count as a grade, and at other schools they're going to say 10 marks is not homework, it's software we pay for, and it's required under Common Core. So I think that there probably has to be a pretty good definition of what is considered homework versus what you said. If it's a project that requires additional research at home or drafts or whatever, because I want to make sure that it's being carried out consistently across the parish and not being done differently at different schools.
Yes, ma'am. I wanted to, Miss Abear's back there. We're not having 10 marks is not going to be next year, right? They won't have 10 marks next year, so that one, I know you picked one that's just happens not to be one that we're going to be using, but
no,
yes.
I'm thinking I wish it had been 3 years earlier.
Yeah. Oh, okay.
Hey, let me say that my daughter loves 10 marks.
I missed that one in reverse. Okay, gotcha. Sorry about that. I just got this one this year. I apologize. Any other questions?
No, ma'am. Any other board member comments? Dr. Sasson, you had something?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Quick question. I guess if somebody could turn it to page 30. My specific question is, and I was actually calling the school board office today over and over, like repetitively, to get a question answered about driver's ed's inclusion when it comes to transcript and grades. And when I went and sought it out in the pupil progression plan, I noticed that it's been eliminated. So does this now allow a student to make the request to have said grade taken off of their individual transcript? Courses that are scheduled through LPSS will be posted on the student's cumulative record upon completion of the course. And now the next sentence of this includes driver's education is now eliminated. So will this allow a student to make the request? And I was actually calling on behalf of a particular student today who a driver's ed teacher that she took the course through consolidated
government
safety or something. gave her a B in the course, and the child has a 4.0, and now that grade is now on her transcript. And her parents disagreed with the grade then, but she's like, hey, you passed driver's ed, but they've went and posted it on her transcript. So what's the process? Does this allow a student to make the request, or how does that work?
Dr. Chasson, what are you referencing? What?
Driver's ed.
It's page 30.
On page 30?
Under Lafayette Parish credit recovery classes.
Yeah. Just above eCampus.
Yes.
Yeah. And it's just strange that it comes up today, because I was honestly calling today.
Mr. Hebert's at a conference. We don't offer driver's ed anymore.
No. Right.
So we're talking about a student that probably took it 2-3 years ago, potentially.
Right.
That's kind of a unique question.
Yeah. Like, she just saw her transcript today and noticed that driver's ed somehow is on her transcript. Now magically her perfect GPA has went down, and she's like, I didn't deserve to be in the class then, and went and argued then, but paid it no mind. It's driver's ed, and it's on her transcript. It makes a huge difference, especially when that same teacher was the person that was asking that kid things about the school board and their school board uncle, which I'm not even her uncle.
So just thinking through it here, we wouldn't typically, I would say on the surface, yes, we would offer credit recovery for that. But because we no longer offer driver's ed, we don't have a driver's ed teacher, we wouldn't have an instructor available to do that.
Well, I see that it's the next sentence of this includes driver's ed has now been struck out. So obviously, going forward, these won't be included on a person's transcript. So can the student make the request to have said incorrect grade taken off of her transcript? Yeah, can this new rule apply? This new rule, well, I'll give you an even better example. In 1999, I got a C in driver's ed, and they posted it on my transcript. And my mom went and raised holy you know what, because that same person said that she had interacted with my father previously in the past, and then just that fast, that C was taken off of my transcript because I didn't deserve it. I'm an excellent driver. Excellent driver. Excellent driver, yeah. Yeah. Oh, when I was 15, yeah. I mean, random things occur with folks.
But can I interject here?
Yes, ma'am.
Under this category, it's credit recovery. And so when we think about credit recovery, usually that's for a child who's failed a course.
Correct.
Not for a child who makes like a B or a C or a D. It's for if they failed the course. And I think that that's where that comes in, Mr. Craig. I'm not sure, because this was on credit recovery, not
I guess I would request that, because of the uniqueness of the question, that we either postpone approval or let us get back to you on that component of it, because I want to kind of think through the different scenarios that could occur and what we have in past structures and what we have.
I've got no problem approving it. This was my specific question, to the point where I even called various offices to try and get somebody to. I learned about it today, so.
I would think student services might be able to help with that too. Pauline and them.
So, members of the board, we do not need your approval tonight to send this to Baton Rouge. The deadline is sometime in October. You've raised two questions, the issue of homework and now driver's education. I would recommend that we defer this decision tonight. We'll bring this back to you August 8th.
No.
Dr. Aguilar, I'm going to respectfully request that we approve this tonight, and if you in the following 2 months time frame need to make changes to homework and need to make changes to driver's ed or whatever, I didn't quite follow exactly what Dr. Chasson was asking us to do here, but I don't think we should delay ratifying the document for the entire school system before school starts, just because the deadline is October.
And the homework issue on the definition, I don't think needs to be included in this necessarily. It just needs to be I don't know what you would call it, a directive, or not even a policy, but something that can be sent out to the schools.
Operational definition.
Yeah, we could give the principals clarification for that. That would be an easy fix.
All right, do we have any other board member comments on this item before we call for a vote?
Yeah, I do.
Dr. Chasson.
So let me see if I can be a little more clearer with everybody here tonight. This affects an individual person's GPA, so I understand updating and addressing it later, but everything that we are deciding, we're deciding homework and summative and formative and percentages and how it calculates. But the word drive in itself, not driver or drivers, drive just appears twice in this whole progression plan. Drive is part of the word driven, and then there's driver's ed. But it's the only thing that I could find, so I can go back to the previous pupil progression plan. So I'm asking for some direction as to if a person takes driver's ed, is that supposed to go in the person's transcript or not? So that's my question. Let me start with that. I'll make it easy. Going forward, previously in the past, because it was added to mine and it wasn't supposed to, so they just removed it. It is now added to this young lady's an entire 18 years later, and she's facing the exact same thing I faced. And I know I faced it because my mom almost had a flashback when she heard about it today. So can someone answer that question for me? Is driver's ed supposed to be on an individual person's LPSS transcript?
So, Dr. Chasson, from my recollection, when it was taught by the school system, it was a half-credit course, and it was always transcripted.
Okay. Yes. So now that it's not being taught as of 2 to 3 years ago, right? And this person just started driving, so should this be added to the person's transcript?
See, my question would be, you know, it's actually the driver's ed training is done by an outside agency. We don't know if they've had the appropriate seat time, instruction time, driving time. So my guess would be we would not want to universally transcript grades that are done outside of the school system.
Okay.
I agree. When it was taught by an LPSS employee, and we controlled the curriculum and instruction and the hours of instruction, if you took it with an LPSS teacher, it was transcripted. And what's happened over the last 5 years, 10 years, it's gone to third-party providers,
right,
and we don't post that on a transcript.
Okay. All right.
And if I could make one interjection here about the plan, and I agree with Mrs. Santani about moving it forward. Our principals are waiting to make their handbooks and stuff and give information to teachers coming up in the next week or so, and school starts right the day, I think the day after our board, or the day of our board meeting. So it'd be imperative that we have a lot of this in place so that when they start the school year, they would be able to give the information to their staffs. Thank you so much.
Any other board member comments? Madam Secretary, call for the vote. While we're voting, Dr. Chasson, I'll let you know that the worst grade I have on my transcript from Lafayette Parish School System and the United States Naval Academy and Texas A&M and Stevens Institute and UL is a C I got from Coach Brown in probably 1990. Everybody probably knows Coach Brown, but I deserved it. So I deserved it.
Right.
I have an F on my transcript from college. I actually got it twice, and I deserve that one too.
Yeah. The strange thing about this individual is that they made A's according to the student. They made A's on all of their formative exams, and the person instructing the driving part said that you know, you're braking too hard, or you're, you know, slow down right here. And I mean, that's, you may not think they need to slow down, but that person does. That bothers me, if that kid's going to lose a perfect GPA based upon a driver instructor saying that they need to slow down or speed up.
I'd love to make this retroactive to 1992 if we can. Yeah. Please do.
Seven for, 1 against.
All right, next item on the agenda, 3.6, Resolution 0718-1935, ratification of bond sale.
Mr. President, I move that the board approve Resolution 0718-1935, ratifying the sale of $27,765,000 in sales tax revenue bonds that occurred on Tuesday, July 17, 2018.
Second.
All right, we have a motion by Mr. Santani and a second by Ms. Morrison for the approval of Resolution 07181935 for ratification of bond sale. Any public comment on this item? Any board member comment on this item? Madam Secretary, I call for the vote.
Eight for, none against.
Motion carries. Before we go to the next item, Mr. Craig?
Yes, thank you for the moment. Kind of out of order. I'd like to make a quick introduction to you folks. Sharon Richard was our nursing supervisor. She retired this past summer, and the way the meetings fell, we really didn't get a chance to introduce Miss Julie Bowler. So I'd just like her to stand up, so if you need a Band-Aid or a cold compress. She's taking care of a department that is not my strength, so I appreciate everything she's doing.
Great. Thank you. Next item on the agenda is 317, approval of utility servitude for STEM.
Mr. President, Mr. Dugas received a phone call after the meeting started informing us that this is no longer needed, so I will not be making a motion.
Okay. All right, next item on the agenda, 319. Resolution 0718-1936, Daily Tower Service Industrial Tax Exemption Application.
I just wanted a little bit of information on it when it comes to tax exemptions.
Do we have a motion before we get into it? Dr. Chasson?
I didn't want to make
any motion on this item from any board member?
May I have another second, please, Mr. President?
Yes.
I'll make the motion to approve.
We have a motion by Mr. Broussard to approve the resolution. Any seconds?
I'll second it.
Second by Mr. Santani. Motion by Mr. Broussard, seconded by Mr. Santani to approve resolution 0718-1936 for the Daily Tower Service Industrial Tax Exemption Application. Any public comment on this item? Any board member comment on this item?
No.
Mr. Santani?
As usual, do we have a representative for this company here? All right. Does anyone know what the, I'm trying to see what the total abatement is. So I assume it's the 5-year kind. Anyone?
Mr. Duar, do you know the answer to that question?
It appears to be a 5-year exemption with another 80% renewal for another 3 years. And it looks like the investment's approximately $1.2 million and the creation of 5 jobs.
What is the abatement? Is it the abatement is
Ad valorem taxes.
no, but no, I understand that. I'm asking what the actual total abatement is. Is it applied to the $1.282 million, or is it applied to simply the building and materials and the machinery and equipment?
Billy worked on this, so I'm not really familiar. He did debrief me a bit, but he didn't really have that much information on this particular item. I was assuming that someone from the company would be here, or for someone from the entity requesting the exemption.
If we deny, is it final? Can we bring this up again next month, or should we defer it? Can we deny and bring this up again next month? Should the company want to fill us in a little bit on this?
So, Mr. Centani, I would just ask you to defer this. This went before the Lafayette City Council, and they took action as well. We have our next board meeting on August 8th. And we'd like to maybe bring somebody from the company here and give you more information than we're able to provide tonight.
Mr. Hidalgo.
Couple questions. What was the vote from the city parish council?
I don't remember the outcome of that vote.
My concern is that if this was a significant concern to this company, they would be here. What is the dollar amount of savings? I'm sorry if you said it and I've missed it. What is the dollar amount?
It doesn't say in any of the literature. I'm looking at their payroll, estimated payroll, number of employees, but it doesn't say the property tax value.
You know, it's not only difficult to exempt folks from taxes, but it's certainly difficult to exempt them from a tax, and we don't know what we're exempting them from. So I'm not going to support deferral. I'm going to vote against this motion.
I believe Mr. Hidalgo is $1.282,789, $1.2 million basically. The effective tax rate of 12.69% is what they're saying, which is 100 and, well, I don't know. It's a lot. It's almost $200,000.
Any other board member comment? The motion I will read is that the board can, no, the motion said that the board approve resolution 0718-1936 not consider. So the motion is that the board approve resolution 0718-1936 for Daily Tower Service Inc.'s participation in the industrial tax exemption program. So if we can correct that on the board there, and then Madam Secretary, call for the vote. We may have to revote.
May I make a comment while we vote?
Yes, sir.
I would encourage the company or one of their representatives to attend the next board meeting. I'd be happy to put this on the agenda for them for consideration. It's clear that we just simply don't have enough information from them and from the application to make a thoughtful decision, I think.
Looks like the vote's up again. Motion fails. Next
0
item.
for, 8 against.
Next item on the agenda is 323, revision to resolution 1107-1584, authorizing the execution of a commercial credit card application.
Mr. President, I move that the board approve resolution 07-18-1938, amending Exhibit C of existing resolution 11-07-1584 for the purpose of authorizing the use of the school board's credit card for background checks for current and potential new hires.
Second.
And I'll be happy to explain.
We have a motion by Mr. Santani to approve with a revision and a second by Mr. Latchley. I'll let Madam Secretary put that up so I can read it. Go ahead.
As I appreciated, the state of Louisiana has now required that background checks for our employees be paid for with a credit card. Since the school board already has a corporate credit card and a policy governing the use and location and securing of such credit card, this is simply an amendment to that policy and resolution which authorize that. So,
great.
This is adding an additional use, approved use of that credit card which the state has mandated.
Great. Now I'm going to read the motion for the audience and then ask for your comments on this. That the board approve resolution 07-18-1938, amending Exhibit C of the existing resolution 1107-1584 for the purpose of authorizing the use of the school board's credit card for background checks for current and potential new hires. Motion was by Mr. Santani, second by Mr. Latchley. At this time, is there any public comment on this item?
I just want to make sure that you know, board, that those background checks are special just for early childhood workers, that we can continue with the way we're doing background checks in our office for most of our employees, but the early childhood employees are the ones that this affects only. Just make sure that's clear.
All right. Any other public comment? Any other board member comment on this item? Madam Secretary, call for the vote. Dr. Shassa. Okay.
Eight for, none against.
All right, next item on the agenda is 325, authorize the purchase of propane school buses and participation in the Volkswagen Clean Fuel Program. We have a motion by Mr. Hidalgo and a second by Mr. Latchley to approve the authorization of the purchase of propane school buses and participation in the Volkswagen Clean Fuel Program. Any public comment on this item? Any board member comment on this item? Mr. Santani.
I have a very quick question, which from the reaction of Mr. Latchley and Mr. Hidalgo sounds like it's going to be a very easy answer. I appreciate that getting buses for 50% of the purchase price is a good deal. I was unclear as to whether any of the financial savings or the financial effectiveness of this deal hinged on the feasibility of propane fueling stations. And evidently, there are more propane fueling stations than I'm aware of. See?
Yeah, and
Mr. Broussard looked at me and he was like, "Oh, they everywhere."
Well,
Yeah.
Mr. Broussard,
I was like, him too. He looked at me like I had two heads. I was like, dude. I was like,
the same question.
so anyway, so does the attractiveness of this deal hinge in any way upon the feasibility of us setting up propane fueling stations of our own, or is there sufficient supply of fueling stations for these buses should we decide it's not cost effective for us to do so?
So there's numerous sites around the city where you can get propane. The initial thoughts are that it would probably be cost effective for us to set up our own propane sites. And as you set those sites up, you can build that into the cost, and once you pay off your fueling site, we can significantly reduce the cost of propane to our drivers. Potentially, we have a cluster of drivers in the Karen Crow area and out on the west side that we could potentially cluster the propane buses to use our fueling site. We actually own an appropriate piece of property near Live Oak and over there by Prairie that would probably fit our needs, and we could cluster buses and ultimately get propane at a cheaper price, and all the positive effects on the environment and the maintenance costs by the reduction in diesel buses.
I really enjoy coming to school board meetings. I do, because you learn something new. So thank you very much, Mr. Craig, for that incredibly easy answer.
All right, any other board member comments on this item? Madam Secretary, call for the vote. You're making it, right?
7 for, none against.
Mr. President,
Mr. Hidalgo.
I move that the board go into executive session to discuss item 4.1, consideration and/or action concerning pending litigation in the matter of Azadeh Yazdi versus Lafayette Parish School Board, case number 6:18-CV-00510-UDJ-CDW, Western District of Louisiana, Lafayette Division.
Thank you. We have a motion by Mr. Hidalgo to go into executive session, a second by Mr. Broussard. I'm going to go ahead and do a voice vote on this. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right. Motion carries. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going into executive session. That concludes the non-executive session activities of tonight's meeting. So if you want to leave, have a good night.
Or like
We have a motion by Mr. Santani to go back into regular session. Second by Mr. Hidalgo.
One more, y'all, to come out here. Maybe one more. Can you hit the gavel? Everybody can go home. Hey, Mary, come out here. You don't think we didn't talk enough? Ah, come vote for somebody.
No, I'm not voting on your machine. Any other machine in the state of Louisiana, I'll vote on. I will not vote on your machine.
Mr. Broussard, we need you up here. I need one of you guys to just sit at this table. All right. I've got a motion to go back into regular session by Mr. Santani, second by Mr. Hidalgo. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, we're back in regular session. Meeting adjourned.